Good day, everyone. Let me ask you a few simple questions. Do you have a pet? Or perhaps, do you know someone who does? Do you love animals? These are questions I ask people day to day, but it is questions like these that drive my passion for this topic. Many assume animal testing is a necessary foolproof step to protect human health. The reality, around 9 in 10 new drugs that pass animal tests still fail in human clinical trials because animal data fails to predict human responses. The core issue is why we rely on models that fail so often. Committees and guidelines provide operational rules, but they cannot fix the fundamental biological gap between animals and humans. Three major conditions that undermine animal testing: environmental variables, the effects of sterile labs, and artificial conditions. Disease disparities, differences between artificially introduced animal diseases and natural human diseases. Physiological gaps, species-specific differences in genetics and basic biology. The regulatory requirements and statistics. The FDA generally requires preclinical testing in animals before human trials, and in emergencies may even approve human use based solely on animal testing in emergencies based under the animal efficacy rule. The correspondence problem. A 2006 review of 76 animal studies found 20% were directly contradicted in humans and only 37% were successfully replicated. The emotional and ethical cost. Picture a beagle that's locked in a cage in a sterile lab, a breed known for loyalty trembling as technicians approach. They have central nervous systems structurally identical to ours, meaning they experience terror, loneliness, and physical agony just like our pets at home. If human progress has lost its humanity, then we must weigh chemical convenience against this silent suffering. It's photos like these, something provided to me by PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, that we have a little bit of a sneak peek of what happens behind the scenes. In this photo, you can see several different animals, such as a beagle, a rabbit, a monkey, a rat, all very typical animals who are in these animal testing facilities. The next image here is brought to you by Animals International on why animal testing is bad science. And let me tell you, I can tell you that animal testing is bad science, and here's why. While laboratory rabbits confined inside narrow plastic restraint boxes on a metal bench showing a complete lack of natural freedom, an animal peering through the dark grid of a wire cage emphasizing intense isolation, distress, and impersonal housing. It's objectification. High clinical failure rates showing how living, feeling animals are processed through standardized pipelines where they are reduced to data points and numbers. Some counter-arguments would be that proponents argue whole organism models are necessary for complex multi-organ systems. As researcher P. Mukherjee notes, necessary for complex multi-organ systems, animal models have historically paved the way in neuroscience and allowed researchers to observe dynamic whole-body processes like ADME. It stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. The path forward shows that while cell structures in simulations are valuable, they cannot yet fully simulate multi-organ feedback loops. We must actively fund and build superior alternatives so we can phase out animal testing safely. Animals, particularly mammals, commonly used in labs such as mice, rabbits, rats, dogs, and non-human primates, are sentient beings capable of experiencing pain, fear, and psychological distress. Opponents argue that inflicting deliberate harm, confinement, and death on sentient creatures for benefit of humans violates fundamental ethical principles. Viewing it as a form of speciesism, involuntary exploitation says that animals cannot give consent, and breeding them specifically to live and die in laboratory environments denies any natural existence. Picture two rats. They're very good for breeding, as some people would say. So are rabbits. Some people would say as well. It's easy to make a lot of them. So that's why some of these people do these things. In response to the tension between scientific utility and ethical concerns, much of the modern scientific community operates under the framework of the 3 R's: replacement, which are methods which avoid or replace the use of animals in research using computer simulations or in vitro assays; reduction, methods that minimize the number of animals used per experiment while still obtaining statistically valid results; and refinement, methods that alleviate or minimize potential pain, suffering, or distress and enhance animal welfare throughout their lives. Some experimental consistency purpose-bred laboratory animals provide genetic and environmental uniformity, which helps researching isolate variables and ensure that experimental results are reliable and reproducible. Some steps that we can take to prevent animal testing are consumer actions, which is vote with your wallet to signal that cruelty-free is the golden standard. Look for certified labels like Leaping Bunny, PETA's Bunny logo, or choose cruelty-free on cosmetics and household items. Boycott corporations that continue testing for international markets. And legislative actions that you can take are advocate for bans like the Federal Human Cosmetics Act, contact lawmakers to support bills while restricting animal testing and funding non-animal research methods. Some final thoughts to summarize this speech is: animal testing relies on flawed frameworks, fails to translate to human biology, and can be actively opposed through consumer and legislative chains and choices. A final question that I'm going to leave you all to ponder with is: do you still think that animal testing is ethical and should be allowed?